Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this program, Our Moments with God, our moments with the Word of God, our moments with the love, mercy, and compassion of God. Especially today, we will think about the mercy of God and how it totally transformed a great saint that I will talk to you about. But I invite you to please share the videos with others and ask your friends and families to subscribe. And please don't forget to press the like button and write your comments. None of these cost anything, it is all free. But the more you do that, the algorithms distribute the video to a wider public. Thank you very much. Yes, today you see I am once again in the cemetery, in the graveyard, and there the cross of Jesus, I suppose you can see there at a little distance, but I wanted these graves to come because graveyard or grave actually conveys a lot of deep meaning for our lives, not just the fact that we all will die one day. All of us have to die, and therefore we don't need to cling to our enemies, to enmities, to our emotions, to our possessions, to any kinds of things, because all that is going to end is here in the grave. But the other good news from the grave is that that is not the end of life. It is there that Jesus rose from the dead. From the grave, he rose to new life, to grant you and me new life. And who discovered the risen Lord? That is the feast the church celebrates today, the feast of Saint Mary Magdalene. Yes. And do you know, I'm sure you know, or maybe if you don't know, this information is quite important, that only in 2016, on the 3rd of June, the Commission for a Congregation for Divine Worship and the Discipline of Sacraments from the Vatican. So there is a congregation of divine worship and discipline of sacraments which takes care of all the liturgical function, liturgical feasts in the church. Issued a decree 2016, only 10 years ago, that Saint Mary Magdalene's was liturgically only a obligatory memory day, that means it was a memorial, has been elevated to the level of feast. So, along on the same level as the feast of other apostles. So, the feast of apostles are very important. We have the Kyrie, the Gloria, and the red vestments and everything. Now, Mary Magdalene, with this decree, has been put on level with the rest of the apostles, and she is known as the Apostle of the Apostles. Yes, yes, please note this. This is very interesting and very something very new. I'm sure you have already heard about it and read about it. But she is now the Apostle of Apostles. Why? Because when Jesus rose from the dead, she is the first one who went to the grave. Early in the morning, she went to the grave and found that the grave was empty. And she started weeping. She ran to the disciples whom Jesus loved most and told them that that somebody has taken the Lord away and I don't know where they have laid. And they all ran to the grave. They found, as she had reported, that the grave was empty. But you know what happened? The disciples then went back. Where they went, I don't know, whether they were still mourning, but she remained back in that place near the grave, crying and weeping, longing for the Lord, whom she had loved so much and who had received so much of mercy. That's why I said in the beginning of the program that today we'll be speaking about God's mercy. She had experienced God's forgiveness and God's mercy, which had transformed her. And this is what I keep telling here in my sermons, etc., that unless we experience God's mercy ourselves, God's love in ourselves, we cannot be transformed and we cannot show our love to others. Otherwise, it is all external thing. Now, when she weeps, when she has such longing for Jesus, Jesus comes and tells her, "Woman, why are you weeping, or what are you looking for?" And then she thinks that he's a gardener. She does not recognize him, and she asks him, "Sir, if you have taken the master away, please tell me, and I will look at my master. I will take him." Then Jesus calls him Mary. And I sometimes have such experience when I read this gospel. When she turns around, Jesus calls her Mary by name. And then everything changes. Her tears turn into joy. The joy of Easter becomes full. It is she from the grave brings the biggest and the most important truth of our faith, that Jesus is risen. And as St. Paul says, if Jesus is not risen, then our faith is in vain. But who discovered that first? It is Mary Magdalene. And it is she, as St. Anselm has said, and as St. Gregory the Great, who have written about her, they say that it is the same Mary Magdalene who is the sister of Lazarus and Martha, and she is the one also who accompanied Jesus to the cross, was standing at the foot of the cross, because she had such strong love and desire for Jesus. And I have been reading that this desire is that made Jesus talk to her and appear her the first. So she is the first one. I had prepared saying that, there are people who want to go for the first show, or they want to be the first. I remember in year 2000, when the new century was beginning, many people wanted to be the first one to see the sun. They are so happy to be the first one. I have seen the first show, and first day, first show. Or I have been there on the New Year's Day. I was the first one to crack the crackers. But she was the first one who saw the risen Lord. She was the first one that Jesus spoke to. She was the first one. Jesus told her to go and tell my brothers that I have risen and I will meet them in Galilee. What a privilege, one cannot imagine. But all that began near the grave of Jesus. Therefore, these graves are not just memories of us going down, but this also reminds us that this going down is only putting our bodies there, but we all will experience the resurrection of the Lord. So it is important to know that the church is beginning to realize more and more. You see, the church always thinks new and develops. Many people think that the church is a traditional body and it takes it is a traditional body because it preserves its traditions and does not jump from one thing to the next. But now it realizes more and more the importance and the ministry of women in the church, and that's why Pope Francis had made this day in the year of mercy, Jubilee of Mercy. Actually, he declared her as he or the Congregation of Divine Worship and Discipline for Sacraments established or proclaimed this decree that her level is raised to that of a saint. So let us celebrate. Let us celebrate with Mary Magdalene the joy of Easter, the joy of resurrection, the truth of resurrection, and most of all, the mercy and forgiveness that she experienced from Jesus. Let us too experience that. And I invite you to please share the videos with others. Thank you.